So we're still in this realm of the Four Noble Truths, and we're looking at the Noble Eightfold Path. And now we're starting to contemplate, get a felt sense of, a direct experience of wise mindfulness. I got an email from Susan saying, this is what we're going to be exploring, and I was really excited. And I guess I was happy about it. I really love sati. This is sati is the Pali word for mindfulness awareness. And one of the ways that I've come to really love her was, and you'll understand why I'm calling her, or sati her, is through a teacher, one of my teachers. So I remember sitting at a retreat with Venerable Analio, and he kept referring to sati as she. He kept calling her she. We'd be in the hall and we'd talk about sati and he'd say she, and I'm like, why are you calling sati she? And then the next morning he'd do the same thing. And I'm thinking, like, there are a group of people here who don't identify as female, who might feel kind of alienated by this, who don't identify in the gender binary at all. Like, what is he up to? What's he doing? So I had a practice meeting with him. We went for a walk. And I was like, Bhante, why are you calling sati she? And I didn't share any of my concerns with him. I just floated the question, and he probably heard the concern in my voice, because he said, I'm not saying that sati is a particular gender. I'm not saying that sati is gendered. He did say that in the Pali language, with its feminine and masculine pronouns, that in the language of Pali, sati is gendered, a feminine noun. But he said, all human hearts, all human beings have access to archetypal energies that are masculine, archetypal energies that are feminine, no matter what our gender identification is. He said to him, sati was feminine in an archetypal way, that it had this archetypal energy that was feminine. And he started to name the qualities, open, receptive, soft, alive, attentive. And he said, she is this knowing presence that takes in the experience that comes in through the sense gates. He takes in experience through the sense gates that then can help us give birth to a new perspective that is potentially liberative. Isn't that beautiful? This conception of mindfulness that is open, receptive, gentle, attentive, this knowing presence that can take in experience just through observation, through just resting, through accompanying us throughout the day, can take in sense experience in such a way that it gives birth to a new perspective that liberates the heart from greed, aversion, and delusion, can lead to full awakening. So when he gave me that explanation, I was like, okay, sign me up. I'm gonna call sati she. I'm gonna call sati she from now on. And he also talks about sati as his friend, this quality that accompanies him, this knowing that accompanies him throughout the day. So it's not this heady experience. It's not theoretical. It's a direct experience. Even now, can you call in this knowing presence through intention. And just know that you are hearing right now, or seeing, or the felt sense of your feet on the ground. That this knowing presence can accompany us throughout the day. That she is a friend revealing experience to us so that we can have a direct knowing. So that's just one conception of mindfulness. There are other conceptions. So there's a monastic, you see here, by the name of Sayadaw U Pandita, who had a very different conception of mindfulness. His conception, and Sayadaw U Pandita is no longer with us. He passed, I don't know, maybe 6 years ago. He trained a lot of wonderful teachers and teachers and practitioners, and has been a real blessing for people, his presence in their lives. His relationship with sati, his experience of sati, was that it was this active, forceful quality of mind. So these are his words on mindfulness. Mindfulness must be dynamic and confrontative. In retreats, I teach that mindfulness should leap forward onto the object. If we throw a cork in a stream, it simply bobs up and down on the surface, floating downstream with the current. If we throw a stone instead, it will immediately sink to the very bed of the stream. So too, mindfulness ensures that the mind will sink deeply into the object and not slip superficially past it. Isn't this fascinating? His is a mindfulness that's active, that dives into the object. Venerable's experience of sati is more receptive, gentle. And it's not that one is better than the other. Like, they're both valuable conceptions that people have been using for millennia. And they've been using them for different millennia because these two conceptions, and I'm sure there are other conceptions of mindfulness, that suit the multiplicity of minds that are moving towards freedom. So we don't have to make one better than the other or say that the one is right and the other is wrong. What's fascinating to me about these two conceptions of mindfulness is that it gets me to thinking like, okay, what's my relationship to sati? How does sati show up in my heart mind so that I can know experience in a liberative way? And this can be an inquiry for you this week. What's your relationship to sati? When sati is present, when mindfulness is present, how does it feel in the body? What are the qualities in the heart mind? What makes sati wise sati, or sammasati, wise mindfulness, right mindfulness, within the Eightfold Path, is when attention is directed, and this is according to the suttas, when attention is directed to the four establishments of mindfulness. So this is from the Digha Nikaya. And it's looking at the Satipatthana Sutta, and it's defining the Satipatthana Sutta, or the different aspects of it. So they get to the Satipatthana where they're looking at the Four Noble Truths, and then the fourth noble truth of the Eightfold Path. So in this particular translation, you use the word monks. I'm going to translate that to practitioners. Monks is any dedicated practitioner, us. And what, practitioners, is right mindfulness, the Sammasati? Here, practitioners, a practitioner abides contemplating body as body, ardent, clearly aware and mindful, having put aside hankering and fretting for the world. She abides contemplating feeling as feeling, ardent, clearly aware and mindful, having put aside hankering and fretting for the world. He abides contemplating mind as mind, ardent, clearly aware and mindful, having put aside hankering and fretting for the world. They abide contemplating mind objects as mind objects. This is Dhammas, the fourth establishment of mindfulness. Ardent, clearly aware and mindful, having put aside hankering and fretting for the world. This is called right mindfulness. He's describing turning our attention to each of the four establishments of mindfulness. The first establishment of body, second establishment of feeling, Vedana, this basic movement of the heart. When we have contact with sense experience, there's arises in the heart this one of three movements: pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant or unpleasant, so neutral. Third establishment, we turn our attention to the heart mind and its various thoughts, emotions, states, moods. And then we turn to the fourth establishment of mindfulness, Dhammas, the different aspects of our experience that help us move toward, help us get really clear about what leads to awakening and what leads away from awakening. What is moving towards suffering and what helps us to move away from suffering. And what's beautiful about, let me come back to you all. I can see you. Okay, that's better. What's beautiful about turning our attention to each of these four establishments, in Satipatthana, the four establishments of mindfulness. So these are the four areas of our experience, or four ways of looking at our experience and having a direct relationship to our experience of the body, feeling, tone, the mind, and dhammas, that helps us to establish mindfulness. This word establishment is interesting. For me, it's a felt sense of arousing mindfulness, developing it, and then strengthening it. It's an innate capacity that we simply, it's like knocking on the heart and like, wake up. It's like, okay, I can arouse mindfulness to be with the body, feeling, tone, heart, mind, thoughts, emotions, and dhammas. And the more that we wholeheartedly give ourselves over to these different aspects of our experience, mindfulness gets stronger. And what's fascinating, and this is where the Buddha is a genius, like with that mindfulness that has that has strengthened its capacity to be aware of these different aspects of our experience, we then turn mindfulness, we turn sati towards the body, towards feeling, tone, towards the heart, mind, towards dharmas, to actually understand the nature of the body, the nature of feeling, tone, the nature of heart, mind, the nature of dhammas. So it's not just about establishing mindfulness, strengthening our capacity to actually be present to our moment to moment experience. That's part of it. But then mindfulness starts to reveal the nature of the body. And when that happens, we let go of our misperceptions about the body. We turn our attention towards Vedana, and we start to see the habitual ways that we relate to Vedana that result in this system of craving, how we get caught up at greed, aversion, and delusion. Mindfulness reveals our relationship and the true nature of body, feeling tone, a heart, mind, and dhammas. And through understanding the nature of these experiences, the heart gets liberated. And this is the promise of the Satipatthana that the Buddha speaks of at the beginning of the sutta. He says this is the direct path for the purification of beings, or the surmounting of sorrow and lamentation, or the disappearance of dukkha and discontent, for acquiring the true method for the realization of nibbana, namely the four establishments of mindfulness. Now, why is mindfulness? Turning our attention to these four areas of our experience, helping us to arouse mindfulness or to strengthen and develop, and then turning that strength of mindfulness that's receptive, gentle. For me, this is the conception of mindfulness that works for me. Open, receptive, gentle, attentive, curious, wholehearted interest. Turning that towards each of these establishments of mindfulness so that we can understand the nature of them to liberate the heart mind from greed, aversion, and delusion. It's amazing that the human heart has this capacity. And we have these teachings to help liberate us. We're so fortunate, so lucky.